to the next part in our project, our trifold journal project. And for this next part, we're going to be working on the inside, right-hand side of our cover and the back. So if you remember on the original, the inside, so that was our back, that was where we finished off last time. And so this is where we're going to work on now, and there was a removable notebook. So we're also going to make that today. So first up, let's go ahead and figure out the size on our paper. And I think what I want to do is trim off this edge. Oh, and I will tell you, this is page HB page 10, single-sided. Okay. HB page 10. All right, so I'm just going to go right about there. Let me mark it for width, and I will mark it for height. About right there, that'll work. Let me go ahead and trim that. Oops. Now hang on to the other side, that's going to go on the back. Lost my mark. There it is. Okay. Oops. I don't know how I did that. I got a little wild in the paper trimmer. Okay, there we go. That will work. Let's ink this up just a tad. And then if you have been sewing around the edges like I have, that can be something you also do right now. Okay. Now we need a slot for our notebook to slide in and out of. So I don't know if you can see that little slot there. Okay, so that's what we need. So what we're going to do, I've got my little cutting mat here. And we're going to mark, let's see, I think I left about the width of my ruler, so that was about 1.5 inches, I think, at the top I left. The reason I don't want my slot for my notebook to go up too high on my piece of paper is I want to leave enough room to get enough glue in there to really give this some stability. So if I pull on that notebook at all, I don't want this lifting. You know, I want to be able to make a wide band of glue to really hold this down and secure it. So I'm giving myself about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. We don't need a huge notepad. So yeah, I'm coming down about 1.5 inches. And I think I'm going to go over about 1 inch. And I'm making a little dot. I'm going to come in from this side and go in about 1 inch and make a little dot. Okay. So I'm down 1.5 inches, and I came in 1 inch, down 1.5 inches, and came in 1 inch to that little dot right there. Okay. Let's see. I don't think this one will reach. I may have to go get my crocodile. Whoop! It did reach. I'm just making a little hole with my hole punch. That's not quite a big enough hole though. I am gonna go get my crocodile. Hang on 1 second. Just wanted a little bit bigger of a hole. There we go. Okay. Bring this over here. Actually, if I put it on that orange, you might be able to see it better. There you go. You can see those orange holes now, right through there. What I need to do now is cut a slot between the two holes, or connecting the two holes. So, not sure if I bring this down, you might be able to see what I'm doing a little better. There's my hole right there, right in there. And then I have a little hole right here. So I'm going to line up about the bottom of my hole on that side, maybe a little bit above the bottom, okay? And I'm going to be cutting a line, okay? Now I'll make sure I stop at the hole. I don't want to cut past it. Okay, now I need to go up a little bit, and I'm just going to slightly below the top of the hole that I punched. And just cutting between the two holes. And now I have a slot. So I just cut out just a tiny bit there, see? And now we have a nice little slot for our notebook to run in and out of. Let's bring this back down here. Now, when I put this paper on, you can see things in the back, and that might not bother you at all, but I don't know, particular, and so it kind of bothers me. So I am going to take a little bit of my scrap here that we had, and just so I know where I want to put it, I'm just making a little mark inside my slot right there. Okay, and I am going to take just a little bit of my scrap paper and glue it on, because I'm particular that way. Okay, that way when you see inside that slot, you don't see anything unsightly, heaven forbid. Okay, that's just me being particular. All right, so that is ready. You could go ahead and go sew around the edges of that if you want to. And let's see, then you can go ahead and glue it on. I would suggest in your gluing, before you glue, let me back this up just a hair, there we are. Before you glue, I would turn it over and make yourself some notes, okay? So kind of go like this. That's where I want to put glue. This is where I want to put glue, because I know this seems stupid, but I don't know how many times I get carried away with my glue and then I think, oh man, that's not where, I didn't want glue on all that. I want glue here, and then I want glue about the bottom inch or so, okay? And then I don't want glue here, because that's where my notebook is going to be. Essentially, our notebook is going to slide down in the slot, okay? And we want somewhere for that to sit without being glued. Okay, so we've made a little pocket for our notebook to slide into. All right, I'm gonna go sew around this, and I'm gonna glue in my designated areas, and then I will see you in a minute. Okay, so now that we have that glued on, we can assemble our little notepad to go in the back. So this is the one from my prototype book. So I've just brought it over to show you basically how it's going to go. The length of this little piece of, you can use cardstock or something a little bit heavy to give it some stability for putting in and out of the slot so it won't bend. The length of it doesn't really matter how far it goes down, because it's really only in there to hold the notebook, okay? However, you don't want it to be too long. If it's too long and it bottoms out in your pocket, then your notebook is floating up here way above your slot, and it becomes floppy, and you don't want floppy. Okay, you want it to where it can slide all the way down and almost kind of lock into that slot. Okay, so that's what we're looking for there. Now if I can get it back out, because I have locked it into the slot. Okay, so here's my little piece of cardstock I've cut, and it does bottom out a little tall, see? So I want it to just go, you know, just a little bit, maybe ½ inch above the top of my slot maybe, and that will be plenty. So let me cut that off. Yeah, that should work just fine. Now my width, and like I said, it will vary if you're using a different size book cover than what I'm using, but coming in 1 inch on each side of my paper left me with a slot about 3 inches long. So I'm going to make my notepad a little bit less than that. My notepad is going to be about 2 7/8. And so that's what works for my notebook, 2 7/8. So let me move this out of the way a little bit. 2 7/8 is going to be the width on my notepad. And let me bring my paper trimmer in here. And let me back this off a hair. Take you for a ride. There we are. And what I have printed is HB page 2 and HB page 7. Let me show you that. HB page 2 and HB page 7 on the front and the back. Okay, so one of them is the lined paper with the swirls, and the other was the solid paper with the swirls. So I have printed them lined on one side and plain on the other. I have 5 pages, which when I cut this up to the width I need is going to give me about 3 sheets of paper for each notepad, or out of each piece of paper. So I'll end up with about 15 sheets of notepad paper. I'll show you what I mean. That may have come out kind of weird. I'm just going to grab 2 of them here and cut them at the same time. So I'm just going to cut. Actually, honestly, I don't even need to cut the white off, because I'm going to put this little a little band across the top here and staple it. So honestly, the top's not even going to show. So might as well just not even worry about making the cut. Trim off that little white edge there. All right, and now I said that was going to be 2 7/8 inch wide. Okay, so there's 2 sheets for my notepad. 2 7/8 inch wide again. And 2 7/8 inch wide again. And I don't have enough to make another one here, so I'm just going to set those off. And silly me, I should have actually trimmed the length beforehand, and then I wouldn't have to do it so many times. But I wasn't thinking. So let me bring it back in here real quick and take a look. And I'm giving myself about 1 inch from the bottom on height for my notepad. So about 1 inch from the bottom of my book, which ended up being right about here on my paper. So I'm just going to trim that off for height. Don't know that I can run all of that through my paper trimmer at the same time, but we'll see. Hey, it went through there just like butter. Like butter. This time I'm going to be smart and trim the height off first. I didn't even measure that, so I don't know what the height was. It was just 1 inch from the bottom of my book. Okay. Trim that off for height. Seem to have lost my mark. And Carly barking in there doesn't help at all. There we go. I think her daddy went outside and left her. Okay, trimming the white edge off. And then we are going 2 7/8 and 2 7/8, and one more time. Line them all up. 2 7/8, and so I've got some scrap. So when I put all my pieces of paper back together, I should now have 15 slips of paper to make into a little notepad. I like the lined side on the top. Make sure they're all facing the same way and none of them are upside down. They look good to go to me. Let me move this out of the way. Bring back my little piece of cardstock again. And I'm going to line everything up on the top edge, not the bottom, the top edge. So there's my backer piece. Okay, and this can be my top edge. And I'm just going to take a little scrap of paper that is about, I don't know, this one's 1 3/4 inches wide. Okay, and that will work just fine to fold over. See, fold over just like that, and you can ink it before you fasten it on. I'm just going to trim it to the width of my notepad. All it does is keep it all bound together. Okay, now you can do a couple different things here. You can punch through this with your crocodile or your large hole punch and put brads in it to hold it all together. You can staple it, and that's what I'm probably going to do. Or you could even, if you had large eyelets, you could even stick that through with large eyelets. Okay, I'm going to punch this through my big stapler and I'll be right back. Okie dokie, I've got that stapled. I don't know if you can see that. There we are. And I did that off camera because when I slam the stapler down, it's really loud. And I didn't figure you would appreciate that in your ear. All right, so there's our notepad slid right in there. I didn't quite cut it right where I had planned. I'd planned on going about 1 inch shorter, and I can sit and trim that up off of camera. That's no big deal. Run it through the paper trimmer a few times and shorten it up. No biggie. Okay, one last thing before we leave again. Let's go ahead and put the back on. Nothing big, nothing real fancy back here for me. Now you can choose to do something else if you'd like. I wanted to keep it simple on the back because you know you're going to be rubbing it around on things and sliding it across the table. And so I really didn't want anything bulky on the back. So I did not put any pockets on my prototype at all. So, and I think I want to orient this to where I'm not cutting off this pretty bunch of thyme. Now, if you remember, this is the page left over from behind our notepad. That was the other half of our piece of paper. Okay, so we're just putting it to use. On the back side, it was HB page 10. And I'm just doing what I normally would do, and I am cutting it just slightly smaller than my cover all the way around. I'm going to ink up the edges. I'm going to stitch around the edge, and I'm going to glue it on. That's all I'm going to do. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll come back and say goodbye. So I have the back all glued on, and I had all intentions of saying goodbye, but then I decided, you know, let's go ahead and get this one last surface covered, and then that part would be all done when we come back. So what I'm using here for this inside flap was a piece from the kit. It's HB page 1, and it's just a lot of like letters and postcards collaged together. So it makes a really nice background piece because I ended up, this is what the prototype was. I had the pockets and decorations and book pages. So you really aren't going to see very much of it at all. So I didn't pick something that was, oh, I mean, it's pretty. I don't want to say that. I didn't pick something that had a, you know, a big, beautiful picture on it. I just picked a background page for that. So I'm just gluing that on. I have sewn around the edges Like I said in the very beginning, the only reason I'm sewing around the edges is it looks cool. It looks pretty, and I like it. So you totally do not have to do that at all. It actually serves no purpose or function whatsoever other than I like it. It makes me happy. Okay, and that's it. That's it. That's all of our surfaces all covered. We are moving right along. Okay, in the next video when we come back, we're going to work a little bit in our spine area, I think. And yeah, we'll look into making our signatures and our file folders. Okay, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care. Speak to you really soon. Bye.